Today, most of us, we think we are neutral toward God, that we can either choose to believe on Him or not, that we have a free will, that we can go this way or that way. Even in the church, we have come to believe that mankind is neutral toward God. Man is essentially good, and he can choose to come to God. And this form of theology has made us to become salesmen for Jesus. We try to sell Jesus to people because we believe they can choose to come to God and they don't need any help or aid from God to come to Him. All we have to do is present the gospel in a right way, create the right environment, and intellectually convince them to come to God. And in my judgment, this form of theology has really weakened our churches, especially in America, because if this is what we believe, that man is neutral and he can choose God, then we try to create the right environment for him to feel comfortable. We also tamper with the message. We don't want to put any demands on people. We just want to basically love them into the kingdom. But this is not what actually the Bible says that the condition of a natural man is. And today, I want us to really get a picture from God's point of view what a natural man is like. Because in order for us not only to appreciate what God has done, but also to be able to convey the gospel properly, we need to begin by understanding the condition of the natural man. Now, I put on the board here 5 segments that basically would give us an overview into what a natural man is like. What is he thinking? How does he feel toward God? How does he feel toward the spiritual thing? Currently, as an unbeliever, what guides and directs his path? These are some of the things that we want to see. Obviously, there could be more that we could add to these verses, but I think in these 5 segments, we can get a nice overview of what a natural man is like. The first one is in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1 and 3. First, let's look at the natural man, his spiritual condition. It says in verse 1, "You were dead in trespasses and sins." The Greek word for dead is the same word that is used for a corpse. That we are not sick, or we are not wounded, or we are not weakened, but we are spiritually dead. We are like a corpse. And this is the condition of all of us naturally apart from God. That as a consequence of Adam's sin and we being in Adam, we are spiritually dead. Then verse 2, how are we influenced? It says that we follow the course of this world and the prince of the power of the air. Now, following the course of this world, the word for world is aion, which means age. That we follow and conform to the system and values of this current age, which is contrary to God's value. So we follow the course of this age that we are living in, this world system. And then the prince of the power of the air. Now, this is obviously a description of Satan, that we follow a system that is directed by a being, and that being is Satan, an adversary of God. So he has created a system that we follow this course, we follow the spirit of this age, and we basically get conformed to his values, his system, not God. Then Paul tells us what a natural man pursues. What do we pursue in life? Paul basically points to two things. Number one, desires of flesh. Now, the flesh is not simply just body, but it describes basically our nature, that we follow the prompting and the desire of that nature, what it dictates. We just follow who we are and what we want. Also, the desires of mind. Now here, the desires of mind is our reasoning, our thinking, our decision making. We actively follow what we think, what we desire, what we purpose, and the prompting of our nature. We basically live to satisfy ourselves without any regard for what God has said. We are basically self-centered creatures that we live to follow our desires. And then in conclusion, he says that by nature we are children of wrath. Now, what that really means is who we are naturally, we become the object of God's wrath because who we are naturally. It's not that we have to earn God's judgment. Who we are and the course that we follow naturally bring us into conflict with God, bring us to become the object of his wrath. This is a little overview of a natural man. Now, on 1 Corinthians 2:14, we want to see how does a natural man respond to spiritual things. 1 Corinthians 2:14, it says, "The natural man does not accept the things of the Spirit. They are folly to him. He is not able to understand them." Now, if we break this down, the natural man does not accept. The word accept means to welcome, to receive, or to embrace something favorably. A natural man does not embrace or welcome the things of the Spirit of God. They are folly to him. And that word folly is basically foolishness, absurdity, nonsense. To a natural man, a spiritual truth doesn't register as profound truth, but it registers as folly, something stupid. It doesn't make sense to him. And Paul isn't saying that the gospel seems unlikely or unproven to a natural man, but he's saying it strikes him as genuinely ridiculous. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to people. We typically think our problem is in our mind, that if somebody be able to convince us that there is a God, then we believe him. Or if God does some huge miracles, that we believe him. But by experience, I have come to the conclusion that our problem is not here, but it is here in our heart. We feel like the reasoning, the things of the Spirit does not really make much sense because we are spiritually dead. And finally, Paul says he is not able to understand them. Now, the natural man does not have the power to know spiritual things. He doesn't have the capacity to understand them. Then the question would be, how then do we come to God? And Lord willing, I want to look at that. There is a process that needs to take place, even though we don't feel it, but it needs to take place in order for us to have a genuine conversion. You see, part of our problem today is that most of our evangelism, the way we preach the gospel, is not really accurate. We just want to close a person to come to God. We basically tell them, well, just invite Jesus into your heart, or just say a prayer and invite Jesus to come into your heart. There is not a single verse in the entire Bible that says invite Jesus into your heart. But you see, because we think man is neutral, all he has to do, just invite Jesus into your heart and you're saved. But that's not what the Bible says. And we want to look at that, Lord willing, in the next video. Now, the segment 3, Romans 8. What is a natural man thinking like? What is his mind like? His thought process. It says, Romans 8, 7-8, the mind set on the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to his law or his instruction. Indeed, it cannot please God. Now, when it says the mind set on flesh, or we are all in flesh naturally prior to our conversion, is hostile to God. We are not passive in our mind, but we have a hostility toward God. We don't submit to his instruction. And we cannot, not only it doesn't make any sense, but we just have a hostility toward God and toward his instruction. Romans, now, fourth segment, Romans 3, verse 10-12, basically give us the verdict of a natural man. If he cannot please God, what is the verdict of him before God, or the verdict that God would give him? That there is none righteous. None of us are what we ought to be. None of us are righteous. No, not even one. When you consider even all the prophets, everybody that lived from the face of the earth, from the beginning to the end, except Jesus, none of us were the way we ought to be. This doesn't mean that we cannot do acts of kindness or acts that are good, but we are not continually being able to be what we ought to be, righteous people. None of us live according to the standard that we know we should live. Even an unbeliever does not continually live according to his own standard, let alone God's. Now, then the verse goes on to say, no one seeks God. All have turned aside. Nobody seeks after God. Now, we are always told that everybody is looking for God. But you see, the Bible says actually no one seeks after God. So how then does someone come to God? I wasn't looking for Jesus. How did I come to God? And that's what we want to talk about next time, to really see the steps that needs to take place for us to have a genuine conversion. Because we don't seek after God. We don't understand the spiritual thing. Our thinking is hostile toward God. Finally, now, what does this make us? What is our status before God? Romans 5:10 says, while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God. Enemies. You see, enemies, it describes a state of mutual opposition between two parties. It's a state of active hostility. See, none of us, we think of ourselves this way. I didn't think of myself as an enemy of God. But when we don't obey God, when we are hostile in our mind toward Him, when we don't understand Him, when we don't understand His instruction and we think it's foolishness and we are spiritually dead, we put ourselves in the path that we naturally become the enemy of God. Mankind in his natural state is in hostility toward God. He is the enemy of God. This is mind-boggling because we naturally don't think that way. We look at ourselves and compare ourselves with others and we feel okay. But in reality, we are not in a good situation between ourselves and God. We are enemies of God. That's why we need to be reconciled. That's why we need a mediator, somebody that can go between us because there is hostility. If there was no hostility, no issues, why do we need to be reconciled? Why do we even need a mediator if everything is fine? But because it isn't. This is the condition of natural man. Natural man naturally does not come to God. That God needs to step into picture to cause him to come to him. Because none of us naturally come to him, choose him, want to obey him. That's the problem. This is the condition of a natural man. Not neutrality, but hostility toward God. Now, Lord willing, on the next time, we want to look at genuine steps of a true conversion. And I look forward to that one because I think we need to really see what God does and how he draws us to himself. So until then, may the Lord be with you. May he watch over you. May he make his face to shine upon you. This is David Sami with a Christian Journey.